Hello, everybody. Welcome to this afternoon's session. My name is Harry. I'm the managing partner at Binary Financial, and the session's on cryptocurrency mining, the things you need to know to be a successful miner. So I wanted to thank Brock and Coin Congress for inviting myself and Binary Financial to this Congress, Coin Congress. This is the inaugural event. We were just in Amsterdam 3 days ago, and we all went out last night, so it's good to see some familiar faces here. So I just want to get an idea. It seems like everybody here knows about Bitcoin. How many people here actually have mined Bitcoin or are new to mining Bitcoin? Okay, so who's new to mining Bitcoin? Okay, great. Perfect. So in this talk, what I will go over first is an introduction to mining for those of you that aren't really familiar with mining. Then I'll be talking about mining at the consumer scale, and then mining at scale for industrial, so much larger. And for this talk specifically, I will be just referring to Bitcoin. I won't really be talking about altcoins like Dogecoin and Litecoin. A lot of the processes and methods that you actually use for consumer mining and industrial mining also translate over into different altcoins. But for this specific presentation, we're just going to be talking about Bitcoin. So what is mining? So real brief introduction. Mining is just the process in which computers generate hashes to verify blocks of transactions on the network. So the reward for participating in the network is that you will be rewarded transaction fees and Bitcoins. So I found this really, really good video. It's a nice 2-minute video from bitcoinmining.com. So I'm just going to play it for you right here. It's the best introduction to Bitcoin mining, since people always ask me what Bitcoin mining actually is. So I'll play it for you.
What is Bitcoin mining? Bitcoin operates as a peer-to-peer network. This means that everyone who uses Bitcoin is a tiny fraction of the bank of Bitcoin. But where do Bitcoins come from? With paper money, a government decides when to print and distribute money. Bitcoin doesn't have a central government. With Bitcoin, miners use special software to solve math problems and are issued a certain number of Bitcoins in exchange. This provides a smart way to issue the currency and also creates an incentive for more people to mine. And since miners are required to approve Bitcoin transactions, more miners means a more secure network. The Bitcoin network automatically changes the difficulty of the math problems, depending on how fast they're being solved. In the early days, Bitcoin miners solved these math problems with the processors in their computers. Soon, miners discovered that graphics cards used for gaming were much better suited to this kind of math. Graphics cards are faster, but they use more electricity and generate a lot of heat. The first commercial Bitcoin mining products included chips that were reprogrammed for mining Bitcoin. These chips were faster, but still power-hungry. ASIC, or Application-Specific Integrated Circuit chips, are designed specifically for Bitcoin mining. ASIC technology has made Bitcoin mining even faster while using less power. As the popularity of Bitcoin increases, more miners join the network, making it more difficult for individuals to solve the math problems. To overcome this, miners have developed a way to work together in pools. Pools of miners find solutions faster than their individual members, and each miner is rewarded proportionate to the amount of work he or she provides. Mining is an important and integral part of Bitcoin that ensures fairness while keeping the Bitcoin network stable, safe, and secure. For more information about Bitcoin mining, visit bitcoinmining.com.
I love this video. It's a great video. Okay, so mining for consumers. So what I want everybody to get from this talk today, for you, the audience, I want to give you something that you can walk away from, whether you're going to be mining at the consumer level or at the industrial level. I want you to be able to take something away from this talk. That's my goal today. So the first question I get so the mining for consumers, a couple topics I'll cover is, first off, should you mine? And if you decide to leap into mining, things you should consider. Mining equipment, and then I'll talk about mining pools. So the first question I get asked all the time is, should you mine? So I learned about Bitcoin last year actually from Facebook. One of my friends posted, Bitcoin's at $60, and I'm like, what's a Bitcoin? So then I went to do some research on Bitcoin, and I learned that there's a process where you download this program called CG Miner, and then you generate Bitcoins by running this program on your computer. So I thought at that time, this is the craziest thing. Why would I want to contribute mining power from my computer to generate this currency? But the thing that really surprised me was that Bitcoin at that time was worth $60. I couldn't believe that people would actually pay money for this currency that was actually generated by a computer. So needless to say, I didn't really pay attention to Bitcoin, but I put it on my list of things to look at. And 5 months later, actually, it's quite fitting because it's probably been exactly almost 1 year that I got into Bitcoin from May 23rd. So this post on Facebook, my friend Drew, if you take a look, it's actually a Costco rack with a bunch of GPUs and computers on it. So when I saw this, I said to myself, he's got to be doing Bitcoin mining. So my first reaction was, Bitcoin mining, what a complete waste of time, energy, and money. It's a total scam. You know, you're not going to make any money from it. And then, 3 minutes later, he posted, except for the 10 to 15K I made last month, the Avalon ASIC I'm getting uses less energy than a PC while generating $11,000 a month. So that right off the bat was my incentive. So I was incentivized now to actually look at Bitcoin. So Bitcoin went from the bottom of my list of technology things to research to actually jumping to the top. And needless to say, about a month to 2 months later, there are 2 startups I was actually involved with, which I didn't pay any attention to, and I went down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. And then if you take a look by July 28th, I say, damn this post, because that's all I did was I just focused on Bitcoin at this point. So the first unit that I actually bought was a commercial grade. So for those of you that actually know Bitcoin, the first ASIC miner that came out was from ASIC Miner, these USB sticks. And then a company named Avalon ASIC actually came out with this first generation 120 nanometer. And this was exactly about 1 year ago. So it's pretty amazing at how fast mining actually moves with Bitcoin. So should you mine? Well, I got into Bitcoin because of mining, and that 1 unit that I purchased it for around $10,000 Canadian plus 10 Bitcoin, which is about $60 at the time. And I never really had the intention of getting rich from buying Bitcoin, but I needed to put some money on the line so that I could actually see if it was worth the investment. And actually, that one machine generated, even to this day, about 120 Bitcoin. So needless to say, it made me almost 8 times my investment. So you definitely can make money from Bitcoin, but when people ask me, should you mine, I always tell them, don't expect to get rich quick, because it's a long-term process. You have to look at mining, in a longer periods, because the price of Bitcoin goes up and down. And actually, I also have another story. Like, my biggest regret last year was that I had 2 orders for 2 KNC Jupiters, but I canceled both of them, and that cancellation actually cost me probably around 300 Bitcoin each. So if you have an opportunity to get good Bitcoin equipment, make sure you get it. So yes, you should get into mining if you are interested in seeing how cryptocurrency is created. So a lot of people say, like, just go buy Bitcoin, but I think you should buy Bitcoin, but you should also mine, because you can actually see how the process works, and you're actually participating in the network, which is very, very important. And yes, definitely mine if you believe in the long-term viability of cryptocurrency, whether it's Bitcoin or any other different altcoins. And the last thing, too, I think is important. How I got into Bitcoin was through my friends. So definitely the community part is very, very important. So that's kind of even how I got into Bitcoin. How I'm spreading the word of Bitcoin is just giving back to the community, which I think is actually very, very important. So moving on. So things to consider if you do decide you want to jump into mining. 3 main things to consider if you're a consumer is the cost of mining equipment, electricity, and difficulty. So if you're a consumer, typically right now a good price that you should look at is anywhere between $5 to $10 per gigahash. If you're able to get it much less than that, then great. And typically how you want to price out a system is you want to look at cost per gigahash. So for a 1 terahash unit, which is 1,000 gigahashes, expect to pay about $5,000 if you can get a unit today. And the current generation of technology that I would recommend buying, it's safe to buy 55 to 28 nanometer probably for the next 6 months. Electricity costs. Now, this is one thing that is also very, very important, because these machines consume a lot of power. They're running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Actually, my Avalon unit right now has been running nonstop for about 9.5 months, and it still generates about half a Bitcoin every month, but it consumes about $50 worth of electricity per month, but it generates still about $250 worth of Bitcoin, so it still makes sense to keep it plugged in. So the way it's actually kind of calculated right now is you want to be buying systems that consume anywhere between 1 to 1.2 watts per gigahash. That's kind of the standard right now. If you can get electricity costs between 3.9 to 6 cents per kilowatt hour, that's considered reasonable. Anything more than 7 cents is actually considered relatively expensive. And if you live in California, I've heard there's some places where it's actually 17 cents per kilowatt hour. And of course, if you live in a condo and sometimes electricity is free, you can get away with, getting some mining units in your condo, but your girlfriend or your partner will probably get mad at you. So difficulty. The next thing you need to actually consider is difficulty when you're mining, because difficulty determines how much Bitcoin your machines are going to generate. So the difficulty increases every 2016 blocks, and the average time for Bitcoin transactions to actually solve a block is about 10 minutes. So I've seen transactions solve as fast as 1 minute, all the way up to about 40 minutes. Expect your difficulty to change every 2 weeks. So of course, the difficulty causes the equipment to decrease outputs of coins over time. And you can expect about a 10% to 15% reduction every 2 weeks at current rates. Before, the difficulty was skyrocketing. It was exponential, going up about 30% every 2 weeks. Right now, the hashing power has kind of reached a level where it's almost kind of plateaued. So if you notice right now, it's about 10 to 15% at current rates. So mining equipment. So the next section, we're going to talk about mining equipment. So I'm going to talk about some of my personal experience with the mining equipment we use for our mine and what I've used it personally. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Bitfury. So Bitfury is a great company. They're one of the big three. They've had a really good track record of shipping equipment on time and early into the customer, and also doing some pre-orders. So on the right there, those are the Bitfury 55 nanometer ASICs that we're actually running in our industrial mine, and that's actually one of the units that they have where you can just plug it in, it's rack mount. So their current generation is 55 nanometer, and they have a 28 nanometer chip coming out soon. And then this is a HashFast. So we're running HashFast in one of our industrial mines right now, and this is a 28 nanometer board. HashFast actually has the smallest 28 nanometer on the market right now compared to the other manufacturers. And then the other really big equipment manufacturer that's done extremely well also is a KNC and Cointera. And then the other consumer models that are actually quite popular are also the Avalon and the Antminers. Okay, so mining pools. So when we talk about mining pools, there's really two ways you can mine Bitcoin. One is you do it by yourself, or you join a mining pool. But the definition of solo mining has kind of changed. There's really two ways to solo mine. One is you take a computer and you just plug it on the network and you pray that you will get a block of Bitcoin. It's probably happened once, but it's very, very rare. Another type of solo mining is larger industrial mines will actually do this. They'll create their own mining pool, and they'll have a lot of nodes join this specific mining pool, and then that node is added onto the network. So your odds are much lower of generating coins because everybody's competing with you. But when you get that one block, I mean, you get 25 Bitcoins. So mining pools. What are mining pools? Mining pools are large groups of computers that collectively mine together. Your odds are much higher, and your payout is more steady. So we use mining pools as a fund as well because we can predict, every day how much Bitcoin we're actually going to get, and we can switch different mining pools depending on which one has more hash power. And the two largest pools out there right now are ghash.io and BTC Guild. So ghash.io is actually they're probably the largest mining pool out there, and they run a lot of Bitfury equipment too. That's actually how they became one of the largest pools. Okay, so this next section is going to be talking about mining at scale. So this is one of our industrial mines right now. The one thing you'll notice about industrial mines is they look pretty ghetto. They don't need to look very, very pretty in data centers. This is one of our clients' industrial mining data centers. This is about a 1.5 petahash facility. So when you're mining at scale, what are the things you have to consider? Well, you have to consider everything that that applies as a consumer, but you also have to consider what other factors because you need economies of scale. So when you talk about the cost of mining equipment, you need to even be more aggressive because your cost per gigahash About 3 months ago, you could get away with $5 per gigahash, but because the price of Bitcoin hasn't moved, now you have to look at about $1 to $2 per gigahash. Obviously, this number will change as the price of Bitcoin goes up. So the price that you're willing to pay per gigahash is also directly correlated with how much the price is moving with Bitcoin as well. And then, of course, 55 to 28 nanometers is also the target size you want to get for your equipment. Now, electricity costs, also same as small scale. You want to be getting your electricity as cheap as possible. If you have a landlord if you have a friend or another affiliate company that has large industrial space and they get cheap electricity, definitely put some Bitcoin mining in there. One of the most important things, though, if you're running mining operations at large scale, is you want to run at high voltage. You do not want to run at 120 because it's not as efficient. You can't put as many machines together. So we recommend running 3-phase power with 208 volt distribution units. That's pretty important. And rent. Of course, the less you pay for rent, the better. Industrial mining centers that I've seen, range from in a barn to basements to empty automotive warehouses. You do not need to have these in a fancy like rack space data center. It's going to cost you a lot more money. You don't need things traditionally like UPSs as well. So aim for about $3 per square foot, but if you can get less, even better. Another key thing that's really important for rent too, you want to pick a location where there's great ventilation, and outside ambient temperatures typically are mild to cool in the summer and freezing cold in the winter, like Canada, where I'm from. So cooling. So unlike traditional data centers too, you want to utilize as much free air cooling as possible. So the larger space you actually have in an industrial mining center, the better, because you can actually use the open space as a heat sink. So airflow is absolutely critical, so you want to move the hot air out and have cool air coming in as much as possible. One of the 1.5 petahash facilities that we've actually seen, the client actually created a wind tunnel. So if you walked in there, it feels like you're being blown by an airplane engine. So avoid air conditioning unless you're building a room that has hot aisle and cold aisles. But we find that for cryptocurrency mining, this is almost too expensive. But some people do it, do use air conditioning. And then finally, of course, if you're running a large-scale operation, service and maintenance is a huge cost that you have to actually consider. Mining at scale requires a team. The 1.5 petahash facility that we've seen typically requires around 4 to 5 people working at this facility full-time, 24/7, not all the time. So the team will include system administrators, network administrators, electricians, building contractors, and HVAC consultants. And that kind of brings us to the end of the talk. So, like I said, my name's Harry Ye. I was an engineer before, and then because of Bitcoin now, I'm running a fund. It's a pretty interesting transition. So who are we, Binary Financial? Well, we're a private fund, and our fund focuses specifically on trading and brokering deals with large transactions with high net worth clients. That's our main focus, is really providing Bitcoin and providing liquidity for large clients. We're a trusted counterparty in a lot of transactions. That's one of the things we also do is we help eliminate some counterparty risk. And we also focus on industrial mining. So you want to contact me, you can add me on LinkedIn. You can shoot me an email at info@binaryfin.com and follow us on Twitter. And then that's it. So if you have any questions.
Thank you. So we recently had a problem earlier with a possible 51% attack from Gas.io.
Yes.
So could you address the idea of decentralizing the pool system to a P2P pool, or are you in favor of that? What are we working towards that as a community?
That's a good question. I haven't had much experience with P2P pools. Most of the pooling that we've actually done has been just using some of these larger mining pools. But I think as a large industrial miner, or any miner in general, you want to keep tabs on how much hashing power the mining pool you're actually joining, because it's kind of a double-edged sword. The pool that you're joining can generate the most consistent coins for you. So we use Ghash because it's got the most consistent coin payout. But yes, it is definitely something that needs to be addressed, because if someone is able to take 51% of the network, it could potentially be a problem. Yeah, you have another question?
Yes, that also leads to my question. Basically, Bitcoin is all about decentralizing everything. But what we can see right now in the mining scene, that is getting concentrated and centralized.
Yes.
So basically, only a handful of players are processing most of the transaction. I see this as technically a problem or a danger in the long term or mid term. What do you think about it?
So the question is, what do I think about the fact that mining has becoming more central? I think it's one of those things that so Matthew talked about this earlier, because mining produces such great cash flow, you're going to start seeing bigger players come into this space. If government regulations start happening, you might have something kind of like OPEC, where have these cartels, like mining cartels, so that they make sure that they control the mining power. I mean, it is actually a real problem. I don't think it's going to go away. I think you're going to start seeing larger industrial mines, bigger players coming into the space. If the price of Bitcoin continues to go up, which I think it will, I think Bitcoin will hit $10,000. We're really bullish on Bitcoin. So I think you're naturally going to see big players coming into this space. But I still think there's room for consumer, and there's room for smaller miners. You're going to have those big miners regardless, but I don't think it's too late to get into mining at all. Yep, you have another question?
No, yes, two things. One, actually, it's mining. I know it's starting to change. It's not only about nanometers. It will soon be about things done in the chipset itself. So this is something, if you want, then we can discuss. But it's a new thing. So the next evolution is not going in smaller nanometers, but working in new kinds of chips. That's one thing. And the other thing is that I guess that if we talk about this 51%, yes, it's only about striking, always you being who strikes many times, yes, and that could be solved if there was a decision through avoiding subsequent strikes. If you have done in 8 minutes 4 times, so the fourth is not counted as a block, and other ones would have the chance to mine a new block. If that would be achieved, that would be a decentralized way of avoiding one willing to have more than 50%, because they know that their work wouldn't be valuable given such blocks wouldn't be recognized. One of those blocks wouldn't be recognized. I guess that would be a...
Yeah, it's a great idea.
One more question.
Oh, sure, yeah.
One more question. If I want to join the game now...
Sorry, could you speak into the mic?
Does it work? Yes.
Yeah, it works.
If I want to join the game now and want to become an industrial miner, what is the amount of capital we are talking about, in your opinion? So what money makes sense?
Sure. So so the question is, if I want to get into industrial mining, how much capital do I have to spend? So the question is, how much do you have to spend, or how much do you really want to spend? So for us, just to give you an example, like our fund, when we started, we have access to about a megawatt to a megawatt and a half facility, and we have about 1 million square feet of space that we're able to actually use. But I always believe in starting small. So if you're going to really look at industrial mining, you have to look at all the different factors that I discussed. You have to look at the hash power. You have to look at how what kind of projected cash flow. You have to. There's so many different things. You need a team of people. So fortunately, like I actually helped build the industrial mine because I have an engineering and a network infrastructure background. So building an industrial mine is not a fun and easy thing to do, because you have to work against the clock, because there's equipment delays. You have to deal with electricians, you have to deal with cooling, you have to deal with rent leases. It's a very, very complex process. One of the jokes my friend said is that if I ever stopped doing what I'm doing right now, I could always become an industrial mine consultant, because I spent so much time actually setting these things up. So I would say if you want to build something like around 40 terahash, even right now, expect to spend about $100,000 to $150,000. That's probably a reasonable start if you really want to get into the mining space. At least 6 figures to get started.
What about sort of cloud hashing type services?
There's another opportunity there too. You can actually sell mining contracts. I'm not sure how cloud hashing did it exactly, but I believe they're hosting in a more expensive, traditional data center type. But there's definitely a huge business right now where if you are doing industrial mining, you can actually get forward payments from customers because they don't want to mine themselves. They're basically outsourcing the hashing to you. But then if you're getting into that type of a service where you're actually providing a higher level of service to your clients, you have to start building in a lot more reliability, because if I'm buying a contract from cloud hashing, I don't expect any downtime because I'm paying a premium to get coins. So I think that if you're getting into the business of actually providing infrastructure for other people, it's a completely different story. When you're doing your own industrial mine, if it's down for 6 hours, nobody really cares. But if you have 100 customers and your mine is down for 6 hours, people are going to be calling and complaining because they're not getting their Bitcoins. So those are some of the issues you really have to look at. So probably two different models. One is if you're doing industrial mining for yourself, and one is if you're mining on behalf of other people.
You didn't get into this, but I guess last question.
Sure.
Altcoins.
Okay, altcoins.
Script mining. Are you doing any of it?
Yes, we are doing some script mining. Yes, but at a not as much as Bitcoin.
I just heard for many times that currently, as difficulty grows so much, it's more profitable to mine other coins like Light, Doge, and so on, and exchange them. Is it true? Do you believe in this trend?
So the question is it more profitable to mine different coins like Litecoin and Dogecoin and then convert them into Bitcoins? And actually the answer is most likely yes. We mine, actually what I've seen a lot more people do is they will mine a lot of these different altcoins. Actually a really good website is LTC Rabbit. That's one of the sites that we actually use. It's a mining pool for Litecoin. What they will actually do is when you join their mining pool, they will actually mine all the different altcoins for you. Like they'll mine, probably about 50 different crap coins. We call them crap coins because you can't use them for anything, right? So they will mine those coins and then they will automatically convert them for you to Litecoin. And then you would take that Litecoin and convert it to Bitcoin. So there's definitely a huge opportunity with mining altcoins. I mean, we are looking into that space as well. And script ASICs are actually coming online right now. I believe a Grid Seed is the first company that actually came up with ASIC script miners. So definitely altcoin mining is a great way for people to get into the mining space. And that's actually kind of what I think Charlie Lee from Litecoin, that's actually why he created Litecoin.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.